It had been 3 years since I married Tyler, and living with my in-laws had become a daily struggle that wore me down. My mother-in-law's constant criticism and my father-in-law's cold, distant attitude made me feel like an unwelcome guest in my own home. Every day, I faced their disapproval, especially when it came to our decision not to have children. "Sarah, when will I ever see my grandchildren's faces?" my mother-in-law would say, her voice dripping with disappointment. Each time she uttered those words, I felt a pang of guilt and frustration. Tyler, on the other hand, rarely stood up for me. Sometimes, it even seemed like he agreed with his parents, which only added to my growing sense of isolation. The thought of living with them indefinitely was overwhelming, and I knew I had to find a way to change my situation before it consumed me entirely. One evening, as I sat alone in the living room, Tyler came in and casually mentioned that we should consider buying a house with an extra room for his parents. At first, I felt a surge of despair. The idea of living even closer to my in-laws was suffocating. But then, a thought struck me. "If we're moving, let's choose a house with 2 more rooms," I suggested, trying to keep my voice steady. "One for your parents and one for mine." Tyler looked surprised, but didn't immediately object. I could see the wheels turning in his mind. I knew involving my parents would provide me with the emotional support I desperately needed and act as a buffer against my in-laws' negativity. It was a risky move, but it was the only plan I had. The next morning, I approached Tyler again, this time with more conviction. "I think having my parents live with us is a good idea," I began. "They can help with the housework, and it will be good for them to be around family." Tyler frowned, clearly hesitant. "But what about my parents? They won't like the idea of sharing the house," he said. I took a deep breath and replied, "I understand, but your parents already live with us. My parents have been alone since my mom passed away. It would mean a lot to me." Tyler was silent for a moment, then finally nodded. "Okay, let's talk to them about it," he said. I felt a flicker of hope. It wasn't a guarantee, but it was a start. That weekend, we visited my parents and broke the news. My mother was surprised but quickly warmed to the idea. "Sarah, that sounds wonderful. We can help you with the house and be there for you," she said, her eyes filling with tears. My father, always the practical one, asked, "Are you sure about this, Sarah? Living with in-laws can be tough." I nodded, feeling a mix of relief and apprehension. "I know, Dad, but I think it's the best solution for now. Tyler's parents are already living with us, and I can't do it alone anymore." My father sighed, then nodded. "All right, if that's what you want, we'll support you." I felt a weight lift off my shoulders. With my parents on board, I knew I could face whatever challenges lay ahead. The next few weeks were a whirlwind of activity as we prepared for the move. I spent my days arranging furniture, packing boxes, and dealing with the inevitable stress of moving. My in-laws, meanwhile, were less than thrilled about the new living arrangements. "Sarah, are you sure this is necessary?" my mother-in-law asked, her voice tinged with disapproval. I nodded, trying to remain calm. "Yes, I think it will be good for all of us." My father-in-law, as usual, remained silent, but his disapproving glare spoke volumes. Despite their reservations, the move went ahead as planned. The day of the move arrived, and both my in-laws and my parents showed up to help. The atmosphere was tense, but I tried to remain positive. "Thank you all for your help," I said, forcing a smile. My in-laws and my parents exchanged polite nods, but the tension was palpable. As we settled into the new house, I couldn't help but feel a sense of unease. The house was spacious, but with 2 sets of in-laws under one roof, I knew it wouldn't be easy. My mother-in-law wasted no time in asserting her dominance, criticizing my parents' efforts and making snide comments about the house. "Sarah, this place is too small," she complained. "And the decor is so outdated." I gritted my teeth and reminded myself that this was only temporary. As the days turned into weeks, the tension between my in-laws and my parents grew. My mother-in-law's criticism became more frequent and more cutting. "Sarah, your parents are too old to be of any help," she would say. "They should just go back to their own place." My father-in-law, though quieter, was no less judgmental. "Your father doesn't know the first thing about home repairs," he would grumble. I tried to mediate, but it was clear that my in-laws were not happy with the new living arrangements. My parents, for their part, remained calm and supportive. "Don't worry, Sarah. We'll get through this," my mother would say. "We're here for you." Their support was the only thing keeping me going. One evening, after a particularly stressful day, I sat down with Tyler to discuss the situation. "Tyler, I can't do this anymore," I confessed. "Your parents are making life miserable for me and my parents." Tyler looked at me, his expression unreadable. "I know it's tough, but we can't just kick them out," he said. I took a deep breath and replied, "I don't want to kick them out, but we need to find a solution. Maybe they could move to a place nearby?" Tyler was silent for a moment, then nodded. "Okay, I'll talk to them about it." I felt a glimmer of hope. Perhaps there was a way to make this work after all. The next day, Tyler spoke to his parents about the idea of them moving to a place nearby. To my surprise, they were receptive. "We understand it's been tough for you, Sarah," my mother-in-law said, her voice uncharacteristically soft. "Maybe it is time for us to have our own space." My father-in-law nodded in agreement. "We can look for a place close by," he said. I felt a wave of relief wash over me. It wasn't a perfect solution, but it was a step in the right direction. With my in-laws agreeing to move out, the atmosphere in the house began to change. The tension eased, and my parents and I could finally breathe easier. We spent the next few weeks helping my in-laws find a new place and preparing for their move. Tyler and I took them to see several apartments, and after much discussion, they settled on a cozy 2-bedroom unit just a few miles away. "This will be perfect," my mother-in-law said, her voice filled with a newfound enthusiasm. I felt a sense of relief, knowing that they would be close enough for visits, but far enough to give us the space we needed. The day of the move finally came, and I felt a mix of emotions. Relief, yes, but also a sense of sadness. Despite the difficulties, my in-laws were still Tyler's parents, and I knew he would miss them. As we helped them pack their belongings, my mother-in-law turned to me and said, "Sarah, I know things haven't always been easy, but I want you to know that I appreciate everything you've done." Her words took me by surprise, and I felt a lump form in my throat. "Thank you," I replied, my voice barely above a whisper. My father-in-law, though less vocal, gave me a nod of acknowledgement. It wasn't much, but it was a start. With my in-laws gone, life in the house became more peaceful. My parents and I settled into a comfortable routine, and I found myself feeling happier and more relaxed than I had in years. I began to focus on my career, taking on new projects and responsibilities at work. Tyler and I also grew closer, spending more quality time together and rediscovering the connection we had lost. It wasn't always easy, but we were committed to making it work. As the months passed, I realized that this was the fresh start I had been longing for. I had faced my fears and challenges head-on and come out stronger for it. My relationship with Tyler was better than ever, and my parents were happier and more at ease. I had learned a valuable lesson about the importance of standing up for myself and prioritizing my own happiness. Life wasn't perfect, but it was mine, and I was determined to make the most of it. Now, as I sit here in my living room, I can't help but feel grateful for the journey I've been on. It's been a long and difficult road, but I've emerged with a renewed sense of purpose and a deeper understanding of what truly matters in life. I've learned to value the people who support me and to cherish the moments we share. As I look to the future, I feel a sense of excitement and anticipation. I know there will be challenges ahead, but I also know that I have the strength and resilience to face them. This is my new path, and I'm ready to embrace it with open arms. In the months that followed, Tyler and I continued to work on our relationship, and my parents settled into their new roles as supportive figures in our lives. My in-laws, though still a bit distant, made an effort to be more understanding and less critical. Life was far from perfect, but it was a significant improvement from the chaos we had endured. I found myself feeling more confident and empowered, knowing that I had taken control of my life and made the choices that were right for me. As the 1-year anniversary of the move approached, I reflected on how much had changed. My relationship with Tyler had grown stronger, and my parents were happier and more at ease. My in-laws, while not perfect, had become more tolerable, and I had learned to set boundaries and stand up for myself. I had also made significant strides in my career, taking on new challenges and responsibilities. Life was good, and I felt a deep sense of gratitude for the journey that had brought me to this point. Looking back, I realized that the key to my happiness had been learning to prioritize my own needs and desires. I had spent so long trying to please everyone else that I had lost sight of what truly mattered. But now, I was living life on my own terms, and it felt amazing. I had a supportive partner, loving parents, and a career that fulfilled me. I had faced my fears and come out stronger, and I knew that whatever challenges lay ahead, I would be able to handle them. As I move forward, I am excited for what the future holds. I am committed to continuing to grow and learn, both personally and professionally. I am grateful for the support of my loved ones and the lessons I have learned along the way. I am determined to live life to the fullest and to make the most of every opportunity that comes my way. This is my new path, and I am ready to embrace it with open arms.